Good morning, Tom. How are you this morning?
Hey, good morning, Patrick. I'm good, thanks. A little bit jet lagged, but mostly back in the zone now.
Yeah, I'm still. I don't think I'll ever reach the zone again. I don't know whether I was ever in the zone, to be honest.
Yeah, so you've had Enterprise Connect and I had MVP Summit last week, so both traveling but different places.
Yeah, how was MVP Summit? So we should say that's the Microsoft. What's MVP again? And when do I get my MVP?
Yeah, it's a most valuable professional. So it's like a Microsoft kind of award for doing community work, basically. So there's a couple of thousand MVPs across all their products, and every year they bring us all into Redmond, into the offices to kind of go through all their NDA content and gather feedback and opinions and things. It's a really good week where we get to engage with actual product people about what's going on.
Yeah. Oh well, that's where you get all your insider information from, I suppose.
Yeah, well, the whole week is NDA, so there won't be a lot of hints from what was in it specifically. But yeah, that's how we get an early heads up on kind of what's going on, and really, it's a great time to give feedback of real customers, real experiences. That's the value.
Yeah, no, I saw a bit of your stuff on social, and all the viewers and listeners can follow you on social as well, and see a bit of that. Looked like a really good week. And as you said, I was at Enterprise Connect, which was obviously I missed you there. It was I normally rely on you to provide all
I
my
know
all my
it was a
detailed analytics.
horrible clash because I had loads of friends there that week as well from Poly and all the vendors, all the big players are there. So yeah, it was a tough call, but watched all your coverage, so I got all the key news, right?
Yeah, well, that was the end. Well, we'll come on to all the Microsoft Teams Enterprise Connect news, but I know there's some other news that we should talk about first in terms of direct routing.
Yeah. Before we get into the EC news, because there is a lot, direct routing, the kind of on the technical side of the scale. So that is where you bring your own user phone numbers from your carrier into Microsoft Teams. So you've got a contract with AT&T, BT Level 3. That's been around for a long while. What's new is there's now an option called media bypass. Now this is named a bit weirdly because it's basically the media is bypassing the cloud service and going direct to the session border controller. So if you've got an any node, an audio codes, a ribbon session border controller, you can put that in your office building, your location, and the call media, the audio from the phone call will go direct from the desk, from the phone to that gateway. So it's a nice optimization for certain scenarios, particularly where you've got lots and lots of people in a single space and they're mostly desk based. It's not necessarily optimal to send their media out to the cloud and then back to the gateway, but it's just a new design option.
Right, that's what I mean, as you know, my technical ability is vast, but so is that the main benefit that you're not, effectively routing something up to the cloud and then back down and then back up again?
Absolutely. You think of like say like so in London, like a Canary Wharf type scenario, like you've got thousands of people in the building, hitting the phones pretty hard. You maybe got 20% concurrency or something. There's no real benefit in sending their audio out to the cloud, goes to Microsoft's edge of cloud, and then comes back to the gateway. So in that kind of scenario, the optimal route is to send the media from the user direct to the gateway. It's not applicable for every scenario. Like if I'm out and about, around, traveling a lot, then actually it makes more sense for my media to go direct to Microsoft in some cases. So it depends on the design scenario, but it's an option we've had on Skype server forever, and it's another one of those tick boxes for now. Teams can do it too.
And is that immediately available, immediately GA, or is that imminent?
Yep, yeah, no, GA. It's been in tap for a while, so we've been running it in a few customers for a while. But it GA'd the same week as EC. We kind of got overshadowed with all the flashy news, but it's a bit of a technical news that's important from a voice design point of view.
Yeah, absolutely. Nonetheless important. But let's not wait any longer. Let's go on
No,
to
get
all
on to the flashy stuff, yeah.
yeah. So I did an interview with General Manager for Office 365, Laurie Wright. I always like to plug my big interview, so you can see that on the uctoday.com website. And I spoke to her about Microsoft. So it's coming up. It's about the 2-year anniversary of the global launch of Teams, I think.
Yep, yeah. So they launched on EC, so the GA. So yeah, 2 years almost exactly. Which is a pretty short period of time. It feels like it's been a lot longer in terms of the amount of features and where we are and the usage. I think they announced over 500,000 active customers. That's not seats, that's individual enterprises using Teams in some form or another.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's what we are. So 500,000 organizations using Teams, 91% of the Fortune 100, is it? Or
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah. I'm
Very
really, I'm
impressive.
really curious who the 9 are. It's 91 of the Fortune 100. I feel like there's a task for somebody to work out who are the 9. Google must be in there somewhere, so that's one of them probably.
Yeah, no, that's probably, there's probably a process of elimination there we can use in terms of tech companies that would be
Yeah.
in the list that might not be using the Microsoft platform. But as well as the astonishing growth numbers which they revealed, they announced, I mean, lots of people save news for Enterprise Connect, but Microsoft really went the whole log and they announced 8 new features.
Yeah, yeah, there was a really good keynote from Laurie, and she went through all the latest stuff. And these features we're going to talk about, the 8 new features, are coming anywhere between months and towards the end of the year. So it's a bit of a preview of what's coming over this year. But yeah, I think we should get into the specifics of what was announced.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I think we should start with my personal favourite, which I spoke to Laurie about, which is the customizable video backgrounds.
Yeah, yeah. So obviously we record this pod and video pod on Teams, so I'm sure we'll be playing with this feature at some point. So this is at the moment you've got background blur, so the ability to blur out the background. This is using that same AI technology, but allowing you to overlay or superimpose any picture as a background. It's a pretty popular feature in some other platforms that use kind of green screens, but this is not using any kind of green screen, so you can be anywhere. It's using the AI to trace what is your body and then replacing the image on the background. So pretty neat.
Yeah, that's the big difference. I think Zoom have had it in a while, but as you said, you have to have either a green screen or a blue background, and this makes a big difference. I think effectively the background blur was obviously very popular when that came out, but being able to customize your backgrounds, people aren't always in a professional environment. I mean, I record this from home, and you're recording from somewhere, and it's not always the background of my messy living room isn't necessarily what someone wants to see when they're on a video meeting.
Yeah, exactly. It really encourages video use. That's the thing. Like, I think it's a bit of a novelty, and certainly you'll see all sorts of kind of craziness when it comes out, just like you do with any new feature. But once it settles down, I think it'll be like, corporates will probably have like a preferred background. Like, you work for Poly or Yealink or whatever, I'm sure they'll have some nicely logoed up background you can use. And if people are more confident not to worry about their positioning, they're more likely to use video and the engagement's better. So I think it's a win.
Yeah, no, that makes absolute sense. Another feature announcement that seemed to be really popular was the captioning, and it was sort of, it was marketed at helping the deaf or hard, but there's a real use case for this generally in terms of captioning meetings.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this has been teased for kind of a few years in the Microsoft space. So we've seen it in various consumer products, we've seen it in live broadcast meetings. So the technology's there, but it's finally at a point where they're going to bring it into genuine just Teams meetings. And like you say, there's a hard of hearing accessibility story, which is great. But you can see where this is going. Like, if we can do text-based translation and we can do live transcription, you can see how the two will jump together at some point, and we'll be able to do live transcriptions translated in Teams meetings, which is really neat as well.
Yeah, so I might finally be able to understand what you're saying when it's actively translated and
Yeah, do you reckon it'll go random technical language to useful explanations or something?
yes, but if you talk in code, maybe it'll translate it into understandable English for a technical dummy like me. But yeah, so that's really interesting. The other one that I spoke to Laurie about as well was the private channels, and I was reading this on your blog. So what's this is important, isn't it, as well?
Yeah, this is huge. From a user demand point of view, it's been the highest rated user voice ask. So Microsoft have a public website where people can vote on features they want, which I think is really brave in terms of product development. Just be like people can obviously set their ranking, and private channels has been a one at the top. It's quite tough technically to do because the way Teams was architected is the permission level for who can see what was set at the team level. That was the original intent. But what's happened over time is you've had scenarios where, like, for example, we have an office move team. So you've got logistics in there, you've got IT in there, you've got HR in there for messaging, you've got a few business leaders. But a subset of that team wants to talk about the commercial impact. Now, it's not appropriate for everybody to know how much they're paying the movers, how much this is cost, how much that's cost. So what would happen is people would have to spin up a different team to be like, well, just the key people that need to know this go in there. And that's really tricky and non-scalable because now I've got like building move everybody and building move finances. So this ability allows you to have a single channel locked down to a subset of the team members, but not just the channel, also the files. So we can have the private conversation and the private Excel sheet, which has all the finances in. And mentally, I know everything about the building movies in that team. But if I'm in the 3 people that need to know about finances, that's the private channel.
So it's still doing the job of consolidating your workflow by keeping it in one place, but effectively segregating the information that is private.
Yeah, like it's very common that you have a big project team and then a smaller team, typically execs or something, that need to have access. And also you might have, for example, we see some customers have PAs or PMs create teams and manage joins and leaves and structure, but there's a certain people in those teams who have a private conversation that even the PA shouldn't be privy to. So that's where private teams private channels, can come in. Is the even though the PA is a team owner, they can't get into the private channel unless they've been invited in.
Yeah, and again, it follows that theme that we're always talking about on the podcast in terms of, and you were talking about it before with MVP Summit. Microsoft really do listen to that feedback they get, don't they, and then transfer that into feature development.
Yeah, and in a very open and transparent way. You put yourselves under a lot of technical pressure if you put in the public domain. You can say anything, what do you want, and then that sets the timeline for things. So that's good.
Yeah, and next one up, in terms of the number of people available on the video gallery and the full screen video pinning as well.
Yeah, this is another one where like competitive products often have more video on screen. So Zoom is often made a comparison. The Teams today has a 4x4 kind of grid layout, so you can see 4 active people and they rotate based on activity. And what was previewed at Enterprise Connect is a 9-person layout, so a 3x3 kind of grid view, which is really nice. So still work to do there to get that to GA, as I understand it. So probably towards the later end of the year, but nice to see Microsoft thinking about further video use and further video engagement.
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of really optimizing that video and meeting experience, we come on to probably the piece of news that created the most interest, I would have thought, at Enterprise Connect, and I think you were saying on social as well, which is in terms of some of the optimization of whiteboards in meetings.
Yeah, this just blew up on LinkedIn. So I posted this on LinkedIn. I think it got to like 450 likes in a few days. So clearly there's a lot of people resonating with this feature. And it's quite funny because it's a sort of a traditional feature. So it's taking old school analog whiteboards, pointing a commodity webcam at them and capturing the content, but doing some AI magic with it. So this will be for Microsoft Teams rooms. You'll be able to add a second webcam. So you add your, Logitech, $50, $100 webcam. So we're not talking about $1 million special capture cameras. We're just talking about generic kits. And the camera that's pointed at the whiteboard, either on a tripod or ceiling mounted, will actually understand the dimensions of the whiteboard, right size it, frame it, capture the writing and kind of enhance the writing. So it will pick up the writing, and then it knows when a person is walking in front of the whiteboard, and it'll basically ghost you, so you can still see the content. So a common problem in whiteboard meetings is A, you can't see the content because the whiteboard's in the corner of the room, and B, then somebody spends all the time writing and they're directly in front of the content. So with a webcam dedicated to that task, it's really going to make it much easier for remote attendees to engage in that whiteboarding process.
No, absolutely. As you said, anyone who's ever done a remote meeting with a whiteboard will probably know the pain of the whiteboard not being framed properly. You can't either see or read the content. And as you said, whoever's, creating that content, probably 80% of the time is directly blocking the content. And you can see if people go to your blog at tomtalks.uk or to Microsoft, there's videos of this, and we saw it at Laurie's keynote, and it's really snazzy bit of development.
Yeah, on the blog, Microsoft's done some really nice GIFs of every single feature, so you can see them being used interactively, which is really neat.
Yeah, and moving on from the actual capture of whiteboards within meeting rooms, there's also some other developments that teams have added around native whiteboards as well.
Yeah. So it's funny, that was the big feature, and that was kind of connecting traditional whiteboards, but also something you would have thought was earlier in Teams life cycle is having a true native whiteboard experience, so a digital, right on the screen type whiteboard. There have been options for that for Teams, but they've been plugging in third parties. Now Microsoft are taking their native whiteboard app and embedding it into Teams essentially. And it has some, neat, again, AI snazzy features. So it can do things like you can draw a grid and it will magically understand you're drawing a grid, and it will do clever inking, and you can do sticky notes that you can move around. But what's more important, I guess, is Microsoft are settling on a digital whiteboard technology. So they've had various implementations through Skype's life cycle of different technologies. They've had different technologies on the Surface Hub. This is the same app that's on Teams that is on the Surface Hub, and it's available in Windows 10 to anybody else as well. So suddenly you're bringing all these different ecosystem options together on a single whiteboard technology, which is nice.
Yeah, it's just keeping that continuity there, I suppose. And finally, there's also Teams Room support for some other manufacturers of touchscreens as well.
Yeah, this was a huge one again, and interesting. I think this really sets Microsoft apart now. So they've teamed up with touchscreen vendors. I think Amcor was the one that was announced at the show, and you can now connect them to a Microsoft, or now, so when this feature releases, I should say, connect them to a Microsoft Teams Room system, which essentially is a Windows Microsoft Room Teams Room video device, and they will drive and interact with the touch. So now that digital whiteboard we just talked about, you can use an Amcor display and write on that screen. And I had some feedback on LinkedIn. It was like, well, why would Microsoft do this when they've got Surface Hub? But if you think about it, like, Surface Hub doesn't hit everybody's budget, doesn't hit every room. So now you've got kind of to give a typical example, like maybe EduSpace, where $100 webcam in every lecture hall is absolutely achievable. Like, we'll go that route. We've got traditional whiteboards, they're digitally enabled now, that's great. Then you've got kind of middle of the road, like I can't spend 8-10 grand on a digital whiteboard Surface Hub, but I can do a $3 grand Amcor display. Like, great, you've got that option. And then you've got the premium, like big time designer, exec, whatever, like a 10 grand screen is appropriate. You've got Surface Hub, but all through the journey, those things are interacting. So the whiteboard capture on the low end $100 webcam can capture that content and transpose it onto the whiteboard. The middle of the road, perfectly valid touch, device, but isn't going to be quite as slick as the, Surface Hub. And at the high end, you've got the Surface Hub. All can be interacting with each other, which is really nice.
Yeah, and absolutely, you said it all just knits together in terms of the price point that people could fit. I know there was some feedback and rumbling amongst the analysts of Enterprise Connect of wondering how much interactive, digital whiteboard sales would be affected by the first iteration in terms of being able to put the camera on the traditional whiteboard. So it'd be interesting to see how much that really dents.
Yeah, I think it's a really solid use case. Like, I love the Surface Hub, and like I'd happily have one if someone gave one to me. But like,
Me too.
yeah. So if anybody's listening from Microsoft, we'll definitely record the podcast on them if we get the chance. But like, from a practicality point of view, whiteboards are incredibly cheap, incredibly reliable, low maintenance, and webcams are complete commodity. So I think someone's going to come out with a really nice, ceiling tile mount webcam kit, and suddenly you're into the, $100, $150 worth of kit plus install, and you've lit that up digitally. I think that's really exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Tom, I think is that all of the news releases, or have I missed anything?
Yeah, there was one more interesting kind of a techie one. So there was ethical walls or information barriers. I don't think it's allowed to be called ethical walls, probably for cultural reasons. So Microsoft call it information barriers, but it's the ability to group sets of users and say they can't communicate with each other. So this is like finance, where you have like retail, banking and investment, for example, in the same org. They're not allowed to share information. Teams will let you group those different types of users and say there's no Teams where these two people can exist, or there's no direct chat between these people. It's something that in the server space has been done by third parties, Actiance being probably the biggest one, but now it's going to be native in Teams, which is a really nice niche feature, probably for certain types of industries, but nice to see it coming in the box.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, it's one of those sort of compliance area, stick, but not necessarily the most shiny, but a genuine use case.
And this is where you saw Laurie on your video, which was really good. Was like, she was going through the features. She was like, Microsoft Teams is built on Microsoft Secure Cloud, like its security, its compliance, it's all that stuff. This is where we get to inherit some of those benefits of Microsoft as a cloud. It's not just a UC product against a UC product. It's the background of all the DLP and the information barriers and the auditing and all that good stuff that's built into 365 gets inherited by Teams.
Good plug for my video, Tom. And the viewers and the listeners, you can find that, as I said, at uctoday.com if you go in the collaboration section. If you want more updates on any of the new features that Tom, they can find them at your blog, which of course is at tomtalks.uk. And we should plug as well events coming up over the next couple of months.
Yeah, so the big next one is UK, actually. It's UC Expo. I think for me, certainly, like May. I'm speaking on both days of that event, so really looking forward to that one. And that's a good time after EC, where some of the dust has settled and we normally get a bit more new news as well.
Yeah, I think April's relatively quiet. I mean, I know that you're probably star attraction keynote, aren't you, at UC Expo in May?
Yeah, not quite keynote, but hopefully one day. But definitely, generally, there's usually a good turnout there. So there's a lot of people interested in Microsoft there. So yeah, it's well attended most times.
Can you give us a little teaser of what you might be talking about, Tom, or is that yet to be prepared in the month?
Yeah, it's definitely yet to be prepared because it's cloud speed, so things change. That's my excuse anyway. No, broadly, it's an update on where Teams is actually at, and kind of my approach for UC Expo is usually like a demarketing talk. So I take away all the fluff, and I'm like, this is practically what the options are. This is practically what the steps are. If you want to do voice, it's this and this. If you want to do collab, it's this and this. So it's a very down to earth, what I'm seeing in the field with customers kind of conversation.
Yeah, well, I'm yet to have my invitation to do the double act at UC Expo, but I mean, all joking aside,
I heard Rob had a session, so has he not
yeah,
invited
Rob
to that?
did, yeah. My colleague Rob Scott did have a session, but I'm yet to have mine. But all joking aside, I know last year your talk was genuinely one of the busiest, and I'm not putting that down to the popularity of Teams, Tom. I'm talking about the draw that you bring.
That's the way I like to think about it too. It's not this millions and millions of seat product I'm talking about. People are coming from me, obviously.
Yeah, so well, that's coming up in May, UC Expo, and I think people can still get tickets, and you can find the details on our website at uctoday.com if you go to events. But I think now for this month's update, Tom, that probably wraps it up.
Yep, yeah, I think that's definitely enough news for 1 month. I'd be interested to hear on the comments what people think in terms of those features, which is the most interesting. So be sure to leave a comment, and we'll get back to you. But otherwise, we'll catch up next month for more news.
Yeah, I mean, I have to vote for the most gimmicky one, which of course is customizable backgrounds.
Yeah, I can see us doing the podcasts with different backgrounds. I'm looking forward to the UC Today branding all over the back.
Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant. Well, as always, Tom, thanks so much for talking me all through it.
Yeah, thanks, Patrick. Appreciate the time.